Hello everyone, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome to Live It Up, the show where we explore and discuss how to take your life to that next level and beyond. We cover health, wealth, relationships, and how to create a life that feels good, because after all, that's what we want. We want to feel good. I'm your host and coach, Fletcher, and today on the show, we are visiting with Rueben Mayes, NFL Hall of Famer who now works in the Department of Strategic Partnerships and Philanthropy for Children's Hospital. Rueben and I are going to talk a bit about setting intentions, as well as getting an update on what's been going on at Children's. But before we get to that, let's take a minute to address an email I recently received. It says, Fletcher, my business partner and I are struggling because he accuses me of always having to be right. And I think he's the one that's always trying to be right about everything. I don't know how to get him to change. Do you have any advice? Signed, KP. First of all, thanks for bringing this concern up. It's a common concern that we humans have to deal with. And I can't tell you if it's you or if it's your business partner, but I will say this. I believe that nearly all of us are addicted to being right. Our minds, like finely tuned machines, are deeply averse to being wrong. In fact, this aversion can be so strong that it can be actually considered a strong addiction. And just like with other addictions, it feels as though we're compelled into the behavior with little conscious control. Many of us don't even recognize our addiction to being right. Now, there are some clear signs. Some of those signs of needing to be right are habitually interrupting others to correct them, objecting or dismissing alternative perspectives, declaring someone or an entire group wrong, unworthy, or less than. But I want to take a closer look at this diabolical behavior, because in order to be right, we have to make someone or something wrong. This dynamic commonly plays out in interactions with a spouse, a business partner, a boss, colleague, child, or parent. It's also easy to spot in our judgments of political parties, religious groups, sporting teams, referees, or even people we don't know, like someone living on the street. In every case, the act of making someone or something wrong draws a proverbial line in the sand, and it creates division. And where there's division, there's going to be resistance. And peace and affinity, the very qualities that nurture relationships and communities, are inevitably choked out. So what's the solution? The key to addressing this addiction lies in kindness. Kindness is the antidote to the sickness of needing to be right. But let's pause for just a second to define it, because kindness isn't just being polite or agreeable. It's the active choice to approach others with friendliness, generosity, consideration, and the willingness to offer assistance without the need for praise or acknowledgement. It's a commitment to understand even when we disagree. Kindness reframes our interactions, and instead of asking, am I right or are they right, we begin asking questions like, help me understand what your concern is, or how can we create workability? Does this serve the relationship or the project or the situation? See, when we replace judgment and our need to be right with curiosity and kindness, we open the door to understanding, growth, and most importantly, unity. We're going to take a quick commercial break. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Mr. Rueben Mayes. Hey everybody, welcome back to Live It Up. I'm so glad you're here. I am so glad that you are in this conversation. Today we are visiting with Mr. Rueben Mayes. Rueben, tell us a little bit about what you do at Children's there.
Yes, I'm the Regional Partnerships and Philanthropy Officer for Seattle Children's Hospital.
Right on.
And so I'm responsible for Eastern Central Washington, philanthropy, expansion of our clinics, as well as external affairs, helping with elected officials, helping with our STEM education initiative here in the area.
Mm-hmm. So you are out there face to face with a lot of people, creating networking and opportunities for expansion, and as well as getting information out to people.
Absolutely.
Right?
So my core responsibility is fundraising. So we have targets and expanding our clinic here in Wenatchee. We need to have a new location and more square footage. So I'm helping with a capital initiative right now here in the area. Also, we want to do more STEM education called Science Adventure Lab and Science Discovery Lab. And so we're looking to expand that program more to this area here in Wenatchee, as well as in Tri-Cities and Spokane.
Wow, okay, so we've got lots of plans. We're going to get to those in just a few minutes. But first, we always start out with the wins.
Yeah.
So tell me something that's going well in your life, professionally and or personally.
That's really good. Yeah, I think as I reflect back, a good professional accomplishment or a goal was Christmas. We went to Australia this year in early December, and it was kind of like, not a last minute thing, it was a wedding, but we were kind of so-so if we were going to go or not. And we have a lot of traditions for our family. We have two sons, one's 31, one's 28, and they're busy with their careers. And so I wanted to make sure we had a great Christmas because they're so busy, we barely see them. And so before we went to Australia, we got a tree. I put lights on the house. We put the garland on the door and went to Australia, came back, got the gifts. So Christmas Eve, we did all the meals. I did the cinnamon rolls. We got up in the morning. The tree was all lit. The presents were there. We have a big Christmas dinner we've been doing for 25 years. Folks came over. End of 25th, it was great. So that's really a personal goal.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
Solid, quality family time.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah. With lots of tradition, it sounds like.
Yeah.
Good for you, good for you. Well, hey, our 2025 is upon us, and this is the time of year that many people are thinking, like, what do I want to improve, or what kind of experience do I want to create? How about you? Is that something that you still practice in your life?
Absolutely. To me, it's a process for me, and I'm a guy that peaks and valleys, but trending in the right way.
Yes.
2025 for me, I just want to be a plotter. Actually, I just want to, because I have a strategy, I have targets, I have things we're trying to accomplish in terms of projects and initiatives. So I just want to dig in and be strategic and work on those things and follow them through in 2025. And that's my goal this year, is just to get through the strategy, do the work.
Yeah, okay, so do the work,
yes.
A sense of consistency.
Absolutely,
right? Yeah. I want to find out, how do you keep yourself on track? How do you keep that level of self-accountability, or do you have accountability to other people that kind of help you keep on going forward? Well,
our organization is pretty sophisticated, and in the fundraising, we have targets. We track on a weekly basis how we're doing based on the information we put into our databases, our relational database, and then we have a direct report that I work with, and so always kind of seeing some of the big things that need to be moved during the year, kind of checking on that. So I have some big projects that I'm working on, and some deadlines and that sort of thing. But when I get up in the morning, the first thing I do is, where am I at internally, and part of that's my faith, and how am I keeping my balance? Am I balancing all the things that go with that, with my professional career, with my personal life, with my relationships? So I'm a morning person, and so in the morning is really important for me. The first couple of hours, I get my exercise in, I swim a lot, I'm a big swimmer, and then I reflect, I do a little writing, so that really centers me, and that reminds me of kind of where am I going, where am I at in terms of my targets, my tracking, and all of that.
I like this. And if I was to summarize what you just said, what I hear is there's a ritual there.
Absolutely.
Right? Yeah. And there is, what I like about your ritual is, number one, there's some care, self-care, right? There's care for this machine.
Absolutely.
And I'm going to ask some obvious questions, but I really want to ask them because I want our viewers to hear, though it seems obvious, it's something we frequently overlook. How do you feel after swimming?
I feel fantastic.
Yeah.
And I've learned, Fletcher, that I'm not a guy that's going to I'm not going to go in a triathlon or nothing like that. I try to swim 1,000 yards now, up to a little bit to 1,500 yards almost every day. And so I'm there at the pool, depending where I'm at, either at 5 a.m. or 5:30. I feel good. That really gets my blood going, and gets that part of that day done.
Yes.
And then after that, I have maybe 45 minutes of just reflection, quiet time, where I can really kind of, and I kind of look at like, I'm a big skier, and it's like for me, like, as a good skier is always balanced, because when you're going down the hill, you're hitting stuff, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes you don't see that. Sometimes it's cloudy, and so I always want to be in a position where I'm balanced. So stuff that comes at me in the morning, or surprises, or things I have to accomplish, I'm prepared. So I'm preparing myself, like you said, self-care, to handle the day, handle all the stallions that come at me on a regular basis, and new things that I have to deal with. So how am I dealing with that in a way that appropriately adds value, and especially in relationships, because that's where you can go off track when you're flustered or frustrated or something like that.
Sure. And so that time that you take for yourself, that 45 minutes where you're reflecting and writing, tell me how writing helps you out in processing your thoughts, and maybe giving you insight into what needs to happen.
Well, it's like journaling, and so I'll be doing some reading, some reflection, some prayer, and I'm trying to remember things that, when I was sleeping, that came to my mind. Sometimes that happens, or things yesterday, or commitments I've made. It's mostly about relationships. What can I do professionally and personally to ensure that my relationships are where they need to be? That's actually the most important thing for me, I've learned, is really understanding where I'm at. So I think about my wife, and in the morning, and she's not a morning person, and so I make her coffee. I've been doing that for 20 years now. I want to make sure when she comes down the stairs that she's getting my best, because she's getting ready for work, and I want to make sure that, at least for me, she's getting the best first thing in the morning. And I have to tone it back a little bit, because she's not a morning person, right? So, but she's like, back up. Yeah, back up. Yeah. So I've learned to kind of, coffee's ready, and then how's it going, and bring a couple things in there. So that's one of the most important things for me. Yeah. And then with my sons, there's folks that I text or whatever, I'm following up, maybe there's a coffee, and then there's a professional part. Where am I at? What do I need to follow up with? And so it's all, to me, relationships. And so that time is spent, when I reflect, I write things down, I'm thinking about that.
I love this. And what I really appreciated is the forward-moving questions you're asking. And I'm really hoping that you're hearing this too. To ask yourself a question of like, what can I do to help bring workability or edify this relationship?
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
That's a forward-moving question, because your brain has to answer it.
Yeah.
And you're asking a question that's going to produce a feel-good result, as opposed to finding fault with something or somebody or yourself, right?
Feel good, you're right. And also, I call playing with pain. That's a whole nother thing, but I talk about that a lot. And so what are the things that are blinders for me, and things that I need to improve on that aren't naturally for me? And I'm a naturally optimistic person, but there's things that I don't do very well. So that's the part for me too. But the forward thinking, I can't change yesterday, and so what am I? I'm thinking about how can I, feel better about giving up myself, making an investment in somebody else, sacrificing. Those are the things that really make me a better person, by giving up myself, and I'll get it back, but I don't do it for that reason.
Sure.
And that's probably, as I've learned in life, in this season of my life, that's the most important thing for me. The forward thinking, reflecting, pausing. Yeah. How can I respond in a way to this email? And what I used to do is respond right away to emails, like 3 o'clock to 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Wrong. I'll sit on it and reflect on it, sleep on it. In the morning, I have a different perspective. Then I can and I can respond with, "Here's where we are. Thank you so much." It's more of a deeper, richer response, and it's a forward-thinking sort of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, you're able to give the best of you and the most productive part of you earlier on in the day.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Nice. So good. Gosh, we're already at the commercial break, so we got to take a quick break. We'll be right back more and have a deeper conversation with Rueben Mayes. Hey everybody, welcome back to Live It Up. We're having a great conversation with Rueben Mayes about setting intentions and giving the best of ourselves and taking care of ourselves. And I want to ask you now, Rueben, about Children's Hospital and your involvement there. What's going well there and what are you excited about for this year?
I'm excited about our clinic here in Wenatchee. It's on Chelan and 5th, and right now it's in a 1,700 square foot space, and we need more space. And the reason we need more space is because we're growing by 12% and last year by 22% in terms of visits.
Wow.
And so we're growing with the community, and we need to have more rooms, more patient rooms. We need to have a lab, and we need to have more specialists that live here in the community. So right now we have a pediatric cardiologist, and the plan is to make sure we have more specialists so we have better access to care for families that need it, when they need it.
Is that increase in visits, is that because we're growing, or is that because of just word of mouth and people are coming from outside of the area? What's the increase there?
Well, that's a good question, and we got to drill down. I just learned this a couple days ago in terms of the number of visits, but we get our visits through referrals from pediatricians. So we work really closely with pediatricians and Confluence, and so I can't really answer that question, but I do know that over the last 4 years it's growing by 12%, and so the nurse manager there said it's just because the community is growing, and we are doing a better job of getting specialists here in town and having more visits from Seattle. And so the combination of that, and also our collaboration with Confluence and the pediatricians.
Got it. And so is this location for Children's, is this serving pretty much like all of Eastern Washington then?
Well, it serves the Chelan Douglas communities and up into Canada and down into Walla Walla in terms of Central Washington. We have a clinic in Tri-Cities also.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and so those two clinics really cover all of Eastern and Central Washington. There's a second thing that we're working on is around our science education program, and we want to have more kiddos who are curious about math and science. We want to provide that opportunity, and so we have this gold standard, national gold standard in terms of mobile science education. This massive 40-foot mobile, 39,000 pounds with outreach scientists, and it's been around for 16, 17 years now. And we have a second mobile that we're building, and we're going to house that one here, and so we can go to more elementary, middle school kids who are curious about math and science. And we need to have more physical therapists, nurses, doctors. As it's a national crisis right now, especially with physicians in rural communities. And so we had the forethought, and Dr. Amanda Jones, who works in our research institute, said, we need to focus on a problem. That is, we need to have kids out in outlying areas and rural communities or outside the metropolitan area that don't have all the lab equipment, science lab equipment. We need to provide them that opportunity so every child can thrive, not only physically, but also mentally and academically, math and science. And so that's another commitment of Seattle Children's here in the region, is to have more of that activity going on.
That is fascinating to me, because here we are, we have a hospital. We don't normally think in terms of like a hospital is going to take responsibility for education of public, right? But you folks have identified this gap. And decided, let's do something about it.
Absolutely.
Is that unusual for this industry?
Well, it's there's not many organizations that do this, and it really came out from Dr. Amanda Jones and her vision. And since 2009, over 90,000 elementary, middle school kids have been exposed to this program.
Wow.
Hugely successful. It's got NIH funding, and then we have a high school internship program they're all in high demand, and so we want to establish a cohort here for kids that this is where they want to go in terms of their careers. And so we give the hands-on research like we're doing in our research institute in Seattle. They've been doing the same things, but here in the Wenatchee area.
And is there a specific age group that you're targeting with this?
Yeah, well, two age groups. One is the elementary, middle school with our mobile science program that goes to elementary, middle school schools in the area. And then the high school is high school students. And so those are the two audiences that we target, and we collaborate with the school districts, with the superintendents, with the grantors, with donors. It's a it's a partnership, and we're here to add value. We're here to provide enhancing all those different things, whether it be pediatric health services or else STEM education.
Wow, that is
pretty
so
fun.
neat.
Yeah, absolutely.
It really is. Gosh, yeah. If someone is listening to this and they're like, "Whoa, that's interesting. I'd like more information," or maybe I'd like to get involved, or maybe we have some funds to donate towards that. Like, how do they get in touch with you?
Well, my cell number, 509-432-8170. Rueben.Mayes at seattlechildrens.org. Easy to find. If you go to Seattle Children's and punch my name in there, I'm here in the community every couple of weeks. I belong to the Wenatchee Rotary Club, and so I've loved to be in this community, and it's so many leaders, and so making connections. So I'm physically here. I live in Pullman, but I'm here quite often, and I have adopted Wenatchee as one of my towns because we used to come here a ton to Lake Chelan with our kids, but man, this has been wonderful. So there's all kinds of ways to get a hold of me. I'm easy to find, but that's my phone number or my email address, or just go to the website and punch my name in, and people will find me. Cool.
And you are also involved in Rotary.
Yes.
Which is awesome, an incredible group, right?
Yes. Oh, absolutely.
Totally all about service, right?
Absolutely. Service above self.
Exactly, service above self.
They'll love that I said that.
Plug for Rotary.
Yeah.
No, but it's so true, right? So, and I liked this goes back to what you were saying earlier. There's something about giving, not just for kudos, but there's something about the act of giving, the experience of giving, that it, while it's outward, it does result in an enrichment, a personal enrichment. Would you agree with that?
That is the only way I feel pretty strongly about that. The only way that, as you say, you can feel good is you have to give of yourself.
Yes.
And it's counterintuitive because we think that, we have to kind of figure it out within ourselves.
Yes.
But unless you reach outside, you will fail. So whether it be with people, in relationships, or with intention, how do I add to this person's, how do I see them? How do I see them? And how do I build them up? And then it's going to come back. And you don't do it for that reason, but it's spot on for what you talk about all the time. Is you have to give of yourself. You have to empty yourself, and it takes a long time to, first of all, understand that, and then to practice it. And it's not an easy thing. We all have egos, and we all want our own way, and it's really something you have. That's why in the morning I have to kind of get up in the morning and intentionally think about that, and how can I enact that and with intention, and think about it and practice it.
Yes, yeah, and like you said, it doesn't always come easy. It's a practice. It takes discipline. But I would also say this: the more value that you give, the two things that always follow value are compensation and or opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right, and I don't mean that like I'm looking to get rich, but it's just it kind of naturally follows value. Right.
I've seen over and over and over again, and not to do this pragmatically, but when you give of yourself, it comes back in different ways.
Yes, in different ways.
In different
surprising ways.
Surprising ways, absolutely.
Yeah.
Good relationship with our sons, because of the time I spent when they were young, and my wife. We've been married for 37 years, January 30th, and that's all the stuff, 37 years and every day and ups and downs and working through that and with intention, right? And so and it comes back in different ways that you just never realize. And that's the fun part of it. Is that you don't know how this is going to come back, but it is. It's the good force that you send out with intention.
Yes. So good. Well said. Yeah. We have to run. Our time is up. Thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you so much for the opportunity, Fletcher. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. And now it's time for you to get out there, be a source of kindness, be a source of contribution. You do have something to offer this world, and I believe in you.